Hello and welcome to the Unscathed Life podcast, a podcast that inspires you to push beyond adversity and rewrite your story. On the show, I'll be sharing some of the core principles that underpin unscathed living, a life I define as the intentional manifestation of your highest self, regardless of circumstance. My guests all embody unscathed living and will be sharing relatable practices that have helped them stay advancing despite adversity. My name is Toma Muswagu and I am your host. Let's get started. Happy New Year, Unscathed community! Oh my goodness, I am super glad that you are here. Happy New Year to you wherever you are, whenever you get to listen to this. So my people say whenever you wake up is your morning. That's a saying that we have in Nigeria. I am so happy that we made it into 2021. You know, 2020 was a very interesting year in many ways for a lot of us. So it's glad to have that behind us and give us an opportunity to be optimistic, to be hopeful, to just change the energy a little bit. So I am super glad to be here. So what I plan to do on the show today is just kind of in project management terms, we call it like a retrospective. So it's more reflections on the year that has just gone by, reflections on 2020. And what I'm going to be doing is using a worksheet by an incredible lady called Mel Robbins. So she's got this worksheet that is called Simple Steps to an Incredible Year, and it's part of a free course that she's doing. And I thought, you know what, I enrolled on it, and I thought, you know what, I liked the questions that she's asked on that particular worksheet. So I thought, you know what, why don't I just have that as a session for a podcast? So what I'm going to be doing is just kind of talking through answering the questions. I believe there are about 8 in total, and letting you guys sit in on the reflections of my 2020. So are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get into it, shall we? So the first question goes, what were the highlights of, well, this year it says, but what were the highlights of last year? The highlights of 2020 for me had to be, there were a few, but I think the first one, or the main one I would say was, repurposing my life. And I'd always kind of felt a misalignment in my life. Anybody that knows me, anybody who's close to me would have heard me say that, the work environment didn't just feel right for me. I've always said there was just something about it. I just kind of felt, I used to say, I felt like a square peg in a round hole. So for those of you who don't know, I've been a program manager for years, about 12 years or so. I've done all sorts of projects in different industry sectors. So it was, and all through that time, you would think that the longer you do it, the more, your comfort levels around it will rise, and I'd do it. I'd do all these projects. I'd be successful at them. I'd get the accolades, but still there was just that thing in my spirit that So, well, I don't want to say unfortunately, it almost feels like it is a fortunately. Fortunately, around about April this year, my contract was due to come to an end, and I'd already been given a contract for an extension. So for those of you who know how the contracting market is, you just before your contract will come to an end, you'd already be negotiating a new contract and all of that. So that was already in the works. I'd already been given an extension, a further extension to the end of the year. And just for COVID to happen, and it set the entire world into frenzy. So, well, understandably, the organization I was working for at the time then just said, you know what, we cannot be renewing any contract or contracts in this time, So that was that, and essentially my contract wasn't renewed. But the interesting thing, what should have sent panic waves going through every fiber of my being actually didn't. And it was quite surprising because that's how I think that further reinforced within me that it was, I was onto something, or I was going to be led onto something that I would prefer somehow. But what happened next was it was just natural. I didn't update my CV. I didn't apply for any jobs. I just said, you know what, I'm just going to take this break that the world or the universe has decided to give us, and just have it as a bonding time, as a time to just, reassess the direction that I was going in life. And to be honest, the rest, as they say, is history, because I felt from then on, I found my purpose, and I basically started doing what I'm doing now. And I don't think that if I was working as I was previously, I would have, committed the time to, the things that I'm doing now. So I see it as a huge blessing, and I am super grateful for it. So that was my major highlight. So question 2, and guys at home, for you guys listening, I'm hoping you're taking down these questions. I do encourage you to write down these questions as I read them out, so that you in your own time also can do this reflection. I think it's super useful, because it's when you reflect like this, it's like a baseline. You're realigning yourself. You're rebaselining things. You're setting a baseline for where you are currently. How can you go for onwards if you don't know where you are, if you haven't assessed exactly where you are? So I think it's super useful. So the second one really is, what did you learn about yourself that surprised you? Oh my god, that one is super simple. I think the thing I learned about myself is I actually don't need a lot to be happy. Oh my god, I think about my life prior to now, and all the things that I used to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a good life. It's not like, but all the things I used to do pre-COVID, all the things that I thought were absolutely essential for us to function as a family, all the commitments and all the things that, we were just neck deep into. Boom! COVID came, all those things were taken away, even down to the most basic things, just even in the running of the house. Boom! All gone. And we were still fine. We were still fine as a family. We were still fine if we didn't get to go to all these places. We were still fine. So it was, I think for me, it was quite revelatory, because I just thought, oh my goodness. So a lot of the things that I used to do, thought were super important, when it came to, the bare bones of it, they actually weren't. So that was quite eye-opening for me. And now the third question is, boom, boom, boom. What was the hardest aspect of this year? The hardest aspect of this year. It has to be my holidays. So for those of you who know me, oh my goodness, I love a good holiday. I think just to be confined like the way we have been, and not to go anywhere or travel anywhere or do any of those fun stuff that I absolutely love and miss. Yes, yeah, that for me. And actually, we also did have so this year was myself and my husband, our 10th wedding anniversary. We're married for 10 years now. Well, actually 11, kind of, like if you count from our traditional marriage, but we are counting from when we actually did the church wedding. It's been 10 years. And at the very minimum, initially we had planned, maybe we should do something, but we're tentative on it. But we had planned a trip, I believe, to Venice in March. And as February came, my husband started giving me the eye. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do it. And the next thing, we started hearing the numbers from Italy, and everything was cancelled, and it just went downhill from there. So I was really, really looking forward to having that holiday. So it's a bit of and I was really looking forward to celebrating it, but it was still nice. We still got to do what we did. can't remember if we went out. I think we went out here and we went out for dinner here, and that was literally like almost like the last outing before the whole thing just came tumbling down and everything was shut down. So it was quite good that we got that in, but it had to be, yeah, I think not traveling and not doing all those things I'm usually engaged in was a bit, yeah, difficult one. Number 4, are you guys with me? Number 4 is, what lesson did you learn that you're going to take into next year? This one, it has to be something around being fearless. I think this year I did the most, like, things I did consider super scary at the time. So I just went for it. Literally, I went for it. I shared my story for the first time, and for people who have not heard it, it's on YouTube, on my Instagram bio, you can check it out there. But I shared my story with the world for the first time. I mean, people who actually even lived in the same house with me didn't even know my story. So for people who don't even if people don't appreciate the gravity of, what it took to actually be so bold as to say, you know what, this is who I am, this is me, it was brilliant, and I'm still buzzing off of it. I think just that it felt like an unveiling for me, like, there was this thing over me, and it's just like, you know what, it's fine, I'm still here, I'm still standing, I'm still untainted, it doesn't matter. All those things that I thought in my head mattered, they actually don't. And it's some of the things that happen to you in life, they're meant to help somebody else who is in that same situation come out. So when you hide it, when you shroud it in secrecy, what you're just doing is punishing yourself. I call it, it's affliction rising a second time. There's the thing that happened to you initially, and then there's you punishing yourself, with just thinking about it and all of that. So it's totally unnecessary. So I this year my story was definitely had to have been like up there. I forayed into Fela Durotoye's world. I got to host Instagram. I take over his page. All those kind of things that would have petrified me before. I was just like doing them. Boom, 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 boom. It was great. It was great. I did my first live TV interview this year as well. So it was like, this year had to be like, there's one name for this year, the year of fearlessness is what I'll call it. So moving on to number 5. So number 5 is, what's the one thing you'll commit to not go back to? The one thing I will commit to not go back to, it would have to be not being comfortable or not remaining anywhere I don't feel alignment. Boom. It would have to be that. Anywhere that I don't feel like aligned in my core, any company that I don't feel, positively impacts, I will just remove myself. Yes, that's one thing. I think I've been so used, almost conditioned to, okay, just that's how it is, just be there, it's okay, that's just status quo. I have learned, especially this year, that no, you don't have to take it. You got the response. Your response is your choice. If something happens, yet it can happen, but your response is your choice, and you can change. You should have boundaries, effective boundaries around you. I think that would be my thing. Yes, that's it. Boundaries. Yes, effective boundaries. I'll just leave it there, but yeah, that's a good one. So on to number 6. So what is the one thing that you started doing last year, in this case now, that you want to keep doing? It would have to be, last year, 2020, it has to be the year that I binged on the most courses in my entire life. I think Last year, it was like courses on steroids. Literally, that's how it was for me. I was just going, I had such an insatiable appetite for learning. I wanted to develop myself, self-development. Oh my goodness, like I was everywhere. If there was learning, if there was a course, or there was a coach, or I've never invested as much as I have in coaches, courses, and just bettering myself, and I just expose myself on many levels. So I think that will continue just to open up my eyes, to learn from people. The truth is that you feel like, oh, you know what, I've learned as much as I can, then I can guarantee you are not growing, because I can. So the difference in my life has been so dramatic, tangibly evident, from going from just learning as a normal way of life to learning with intent, learning like aggressively. It just there's something about that process that just catalyzes your whole being. So I would definitely say that one. So we're nearly there. I'm on question number 7 now, and it says, in what ways are you stronger than you were last year, and what wisdom are you bringing into the new year? I would say from 2020 would have to be collaborations and community. One of the biggest things for me in 2020 has to be, the community that I now have, and that was as a result of some of the courses that I did. Fela Durote's course, Speak for Gold, would probably be, account for probably about 80% of the new, the new community that I now find myself in. And it has been amazing. I mean, when I mean amazing people, just being exposed to, different minds from across the world. It has just been fantastic. It's just taken me to a new level. And then the other thing I would say is it has to be around, people. In terms of wisdom, I'm just more conscious of, stuff that people carry, baggage that people carry, on them. There's this thing that said it is not, what are you doing? It's why are you doing it? It's that asking those deeper questions, because people are wounded. We are all wounded. We've all been wounded in one way or the other. So it's understanding that people are going through different things, and it's just being giving a bit more room, giving a little bit more room in just that understanding of some of the baggage that people carry around with them. So I think for me, it's that grace, being that extending grace, more grace, a little bit more grace. Yes, that will be it. Number 7. So on to number 8 now. Boom, boom, boom. What are you most proud of that happened this past year? What am I most proud of that happened in 2020? Honestly, it has to be just sharing my story. I know that I've talked about it already, but honestly, there is nothing else that compares to it. Just that owning my story and not allowing myself be tainted by shame. I think the benefits that it has done for me is it has allowed me find purpose. It's allowed me glow from within. It's allowed me free my mind. It allowed me embrace my worthiness. It's allowed me know that I am enough. It's allowed me connect more to people. The amount of people that reach out to me now that feel as if, I know you. I have people DMing me with their life stories oh Tomra, I heard this, I watched your story on this, or I watched this, and I was so touched. Here's my story. And Fela Durate always says that the power of your story is being able to unlock the story in somebody else. So for me, I've seen that. I've seen that in many ways. Just being able to connect with people, and they just feel that connection instantly, and they just start to tell me about their lives, and me being able to just offer some sort of coaching, counseling, support, and most importantly, it's just be able to love on them. That for me, it just tops it. And then this close second would be just coaching now, what I do now. I mean, last year was just, I didn't even know. I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know the power that can come when you invest your time. You invest your life in trying to help somebody else. I didn't know how rewarding that could feel. I didn't know how fulfilling that could feel. And that is what I have experienced now. And honestly, I would not trade it for the world. I would not trade it for the world. It's been that's the proudest, definitely, moments where I'm coaching, or I'm teaching, or I am speaking at an event, or I am podcasting, or I'm just doing the things I was created to do. Oh gosh, nothing tops it. So I want to encourage you and just leave a bit of encouragement with you. If you're struggling and if you're not sure about your purpose, and you're like, you know what, honestly, you've got to do the work. 2021 must not pass, and you're still asking a question about your life, like, oh, is this a direction? 2021 is when you are running aggressively to that place. So I implore you, I beseech you to just dig deep, dig deep and ask yourself some questions. Use these questions, reflect, see where you are now in comparison to where you were in 2019. And I promise you will start to see some trends. There will be some indicators in this exercise itself. So I would like for you to, put in the work. You've got to ask yourself, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What was I created to do here on earth? You might be a teacher, you might be a policeman, you might be working in a hospital, whatever it is. Even within that, some people were created to do that. So you've got to be in alignment. What you were created to do, it has to be in alignment with what you are actually doing on a daily basis, because that is how your life counts. And you want your life to count. When you were created by God, when He thought about you, there was something in God's mind. There was a vision in God's mind for you. And you might sit down, you might be making a lot of money, and you still feel that emptiness. It's because that vision has not yet come to pass. It's because you are not yet in that place. So you want to ask yourself some questions. If you want to reach out, please feel free to reach out. You've got to find that, because that is when you start to feel fulfilled. There is no greater feeling that you'll ever have than being in that place of fulfillment, like you are meeting, you're getting there. So yes, those are the questions, and I will repeat them now so that you can have them in one go to save you going through again. So number one question is, what were the highlights for this year, which would be last year, 2020? Number two is, what did you learn about yourself that surprised you? Number three is, what was the hardest aspect of last year, 2020? What lesson did you learn that you're going to take into next year, which is 2021, this year? What's one thing you'll commit to not going back to? One thing you'll commit to not going back to. That's number 5. And then number 6 is, what's one thing you started doing last year, 2020, that you want to keep doing in 2021? And question number 7 is, in what ways are you stronger than you were last year? So were you stronger than you were in 2020? What wisdom are you bringing into 2021? And then question number 8 is, what are you most proud of that happened this past year? So that's the question. Those are the questions. I want you to sit down. I want you to reflect on them. And I want you to, have an incredible 2021. Honestly, if there's one wish that I have for you, is that you will find purpose, you will find fulfillment, that you will not be overwhelmed when it looks like everything is going on outside, that it will not consume you, that you will be fine on the inside. You will know that, you'll be built like a brick. And you will go on to do just amazing things in this year. Amazing things. So for those of you who are setting goals, which you should be, I've created an ebook. So it's my first ebook. You want to get on it. It's called 21 for 21, and it outlines 21 steps that will take you from being stuck to unstuck. So if you feel like, I'm not too sure how you set goals, you don't feel like you're achieving them, you feel like you're still in the same place, then I guarantee this workbook is for you. You want to get this workbook. So you can go, I'll include it on the show notes for this episode, but you can also get it on my website, unscathed.me, or via my Instagram bio, and download it for free as a gift to you, my precious community. Alrighty, I am super excited for this year. I'm super excited for the guests. The guests that I have planned for this year, honestly, to enlighten you, to encourage you, to instruct you, to inform you, to engage. Honestly, there's just so much planned for you. So I want us to build this community. Please share this podcast with a friend, share this podcast with everybody because there's just so much good stuff that is going to be coming down the pipeline this year. And I also would like to encourage you to join our Facebook community. It's at the Unscathed Life on Facebook. You want to be there. There's just so much that we've got planned. Alrighty, thank you so much. Alright, I love you all. Bye. Thank you for joining me today on the Unscathed Live podcast. I trust you have taken away actionable practices for living unscathed. You can check me out on my website at www.unscathed.me, or on Instagram at tombra.moswago, and Facebook at The Unscathed Life. Have a great week, and do remember to be resilient in all your endeavors. Bye for now.